sport. Some say the best week of the year that isn't regionals, super regionals, or College World Series. I love conference tournament time. Just have the SEC tournament on my TV at all times, even when it's in a rain delay. I just like listening to Ben McDonald's sweet voice tell me it's raining for 15 minutes out of my day. I'm watching East Carolina Tulane right now. You guys have any baseball in the background, or are you strictly dialed into the number one show in the industry?
I got stuff in the background, but I'm waiting. I got the Pac-12 starting up here at 9 o'clock, so I still got a couple more hours till we really get going on my side.
I got my waves going in the background. Slim chances. They went out, they're going to be in. I would love for them to steal Ole Miss's spot because this was kind of setting up to be as whoever, steals a bid here is going to steal Ole Miss's spot. So fingers crossed it's Tulane.
Yeah, they got to take 2 from ECU today. And then
that's going to be a tough task.
It's a tough task. ECU's on fire.
Well, Tulane's up 4-0 right now, but Ole Miss is a power, and I don't think that they have any business being on the bubble. They should only be a 1 seed, according to some of the 1 seeds that D1 baseball is rolling out this morning.
The thought process blows my mind. I don't even understand. Like some teams that have been mediocre to bad all year, and all of a sudden they should be hosting because they put together 1 weekend of ball. Come on, give me a break. They shouldn't be hosting. Look at the resumes. Look at go through and see who teams have beat, not just what they've done in the last 2 weeks here.
Not only with North Carolina specifically, did they say, yeah, they're hosting right now. They said that if they'll feel really, really good if they win 1 more game, then it's going to be, quote, sewn up. So I don't know how tuned in D1 is. We probably shouldn't ever rip on them, but maybe they'll be right about North Carolina. I just don't see them as even a potential regional host. Maybe if they win the ACC tournament, but that's a couple games away, and then other stuff would have to fall. LSU maybe loses the rest of their games, but even then, I don't think it's a possibility.
There'd have to be some upsets here in the last couple minutes just to knock teams out of hosting that should be deserving of hosting. North Carolina's a nice story. They put it together here at the end of the season. They're going to be a great 2 somewhere. They're going to go in. They're going to compete. They got pitching. They've been putting the hitting together a little bit here. They're not a host. They're not a host site. They're not. That's just not it.
Just a few weeks ago, they were not an NCAA tournament team.
Yeah, they were past the bubble. They weren't in. They've played their way in. Same with NC State. I think they've done the same thing. They've kind of played their way into this tournament now. They were on the bubble on the outside looking in. That's a problem, though, for some of these bubble teams that didn't play well, like the Ole Misses of the world, who lost way too early in these tournaments, and now they're sitting on the outside. So it's going to be interesting to see what the committee does.
I would really hate to take away any live viewers from the people watching our program, but everybody should be watching this East Carolina Tulane game. The Tulane pitcher has his jersey untucked with his long flowing hair, and he throws like his arm is broken. Like it's almost like the way he throws changes mid pitch. It's very odd, but they're winning the game, so I guess it's working out for them.
Hey, get through the first one and put together the second one. Figure it out. Throw anybody you can out there.
Looks like they just picked somebody from the crowd.
That would be very Tulane. That's their coach now.
Yeah, their coach is from the crowd.
Well, right on cue, East Carolina home run. So
you need to stop talking about it then. You're a jinx.
Well, I'm an ECU lifer, so
a lifer.
Well, some are saying the ECU should be hosting. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into that later here today, but I think ECU's a better host than North Carolina.
Oh yeah, and East Carolina's won. I assume they have not lost. They haven't lost in their conference tournament. They've won, 18 in a row? 19 now?
They're the hottest team versus, Stanford is who we think is in the Power Fives, but ECU is the hottest team in baseball right now.
Jake, are you afraid of one of your 8 teams getting paired up with East Carolina? Jake's internet is getting paired up with not the show, so
Jake's internet is the Maryland host of college baseball. Oh, man.
Oh, Jake, are you with us? Oh, there he goes. Mark, have any conference tournaments been more exciting than you thought they would be?
I'm not going to lie. As much as I didn't want to watch the mediocre 12, the Big 12 has actually been entertaining, and it's provided a little bit of drama for us here. Got Texas versus Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's got to win 2. Oklahoma versus K-State, which was the surprising one to see not Texas Tech in that game. So Oklahoma's really got the ride right to the finals, like we were talking about. And Texas has it all in front of them. You know, they win the Big 12 tournament. They probably play their way into a host. It's been an interesting thing to see, at least.
Well, like Jake said for so long, Texas Tech is just horrible away from home, and they may have just played their way out of that regional even conversation. But I don't think I said it on the show, but I know I said it in our chat. Kansas State, not a bad baseball team, even though they are a bad baseball team. So I'm happy to see the Wildcats still hanging around. It would be really funny if they won the league. Probably bad for my Rebels, but really, really funny. So then I can just kind of circle that text and say, look how right I was, even though they won like 3 conference games.
Yeah, they were bad this year, which is funny because last year they had an All-American on the mound. They had dudes all over the place. They were a very good baseball team. They lost a lot of talent, though. You don't just replace that overnight, especially in that conference. So it's good to see them competing and getting in there. There's a lot of good ones, though, like Gonzaga. They got to win 2 against San Diego. GCU, Grand Canyon, they got to win 2 against Abilene Christian. These conferences could give another bid to somebody that was not expected to go in, and that might hurt teams also. San Diego or Abilene Christian steals a bid, that's going to hurt those bubble teams also.
What I'm really looking forward to today is the ASUN Championship. We love Liberty. We kind of like Kennesaw State. Maybe we don't that much, but Liberty is so much fun for those of us that like fun. And I hope they win. I hope they beat Kennesaw State, but Kennesaw State's a very good team. I think they're both a tournament team. Should be a great one. That's one of those conference games where it's nice because nobody's like season is ending, so you don't really like, oh, what a sad story. They had a good run. It's over. We'll just go out and see 2 pretty good teams play and see maybe they end up as a 2 or a 3, probably a 3 somewhere, and we learn more about them.
Yeah, I think that's what you're playing for right now. If you're Liberty and Kennesaw's got to win 2 today, but Liberty, I think that they could be playing for a low 2 seed. Probably, like we said, probably a really good 3 seed, but they could get a 2 seed if they win this tournament because they've been also, like ECU, kind of silently on fire here down the stretch where we had them rated early, and now they're playing good baseball like we thought that they could.
Yeah, no, Kennesaw State was my pick over Liberty. We kind of split there. The Owls play really good baseball. They're one of the hotter teams, I think, in that mid-major tier. And I really do kind of trust them a lot more than Liberty because Liberty just kind of seems like a flash in the pan and they disappear at times. But yeah, if you're a fan of obscure college baseball and you love to flex on people who don't watch a lot of obscure baseball, the ASUN Conference is the one for you because both these teams are going to be ones that you're going to be seeing down the road here.
My thing is if I'm the committee kind of picking between Liberty and Kennesaw State, who gets the higher seed, I've seen Liberty beat a lot of Power 5 teams this year. They ran through the ACC, which we say is the toughest conference this year. They beat Florida to open the year. Kennesaw State hasn't really beaten any. I think they have maybe one win against Georgia Tech. But really, they've played that Georgia Tech, a couple other teams in that region, and they really haven't risen to the occasion as much as Liberty has. So I would like to see Liberty get paired in kind of a favorable regional forum. I don't know what that would look like since this year is so wild, but I trust them a little bit more than I trust Kennesaw State. I don't know who's going to win the ASUN, but give me Liberty to go longer in the NCAA tournament.
I think it's just because you're blinded by your Ole Miss love. They just look too much like Ole Miss. And you're like, oh my gosh, is this Ole Miss?
I think with their experience and what they did last year in the tournament and being ready, I think that put them in a better spot now. I think that they can play against the big teams because they're not afraid. And I think that's the difference there. Kennesaw State might have a better baseball team this year, but they kind of go into those games timid, like they're a little bit not used to that property.
Yeah, that Knoxville regional the Liberty was in last year was like subtly kind of a crazy one, even though we kind of think Tennessee just steamrolled right through it. There were a lot of that 2, 3, 4 just switching around. Liberty was a lot of fun to watch in last year's NCAA tournament. Hopefully they are again this year against a team that I don't want to see in Omaha. Miami.
Speaking of that, Wright State's making a run too. They're in the championship game in the Horizon, and they're going to be another team. They're going to have a subpar record going to somebody who's a lot higher ranks regional. And Tennessee had to walk them off last year.
Are they playing in Illinois, Chicago in that?
They're playing Oakland, but that's Oakland, Michigan, not Oakland, California. I wanted to clarify that one because I was like, why is there a California team in the Horizon League? It's Oakland, Michigan.
So are we done with DBU now? Can we just bury that team? Like, why is this keep popping up? They lost 21-2 last night.
In the article released by D1 Baseball this morning, they said we should still be keeping an eye on them for hosting. I'm serious.
Did they really?
What? They can't even win their own conference. They didn't even finish. They finished 4th in their own freaking conference during the regular season, and they didn't even come close to winning their conference tournament. If they are hosting, I'll freaking eat a hat.
Hold on.
That's outrageous.
So the host one is a little outrageous, but I was thinking about this as a bubble team. They have the luxury of playing a few of these bubble teams that they're competing with spots with. Like they have the head-to-head over San Diego. They played Maryland, so they have a good non-conference schedule. But yeah, they almost feel like Bama basketball, where they played such a gauntlet that they ran out of gas there at the end. And they're honestly terrible, and they're going to be somebody's great surprise as a 3 seed, because I don't really think that they're that good. When I went and saw them play in College Station, A&M run-rolled them in 7 innings.
Yeah.
They didn't really feel that special. They just felt like a normal mid-major team.
We'd love the take back here. Send them to Corvallis this year. I'd love to just beat them. If you want to put them as a 2 seed, D1 baseball, make some ridiculous claims just because the RPI. If they get in as a host team, RPI needs to be rewritten tomorrow. It's so broken.
They're going to put them with Texas because Texas always gets these candy regionals. Last year they got Arizona State, who fired their coach. Like it's their 2 seed. Like they're going to get another candy regional with DBU as the 2.
Well, this year they're obviously going to send Arkansas there just for the storyline. The committee loves these. Like, oh, it just so worked out that way. Texas will play somebody that they probably shouldn't be playing, but it was worked around so that they will play that team.
Yeah, as much as it pains me to say, I love the fact that Texas has kind of gone on a run here the last couple weeks, because it did kind of feel like A&M was going to be a top 10 seed and Texas was going to go to that regional as like a 17, 18, 19. It's like, no, they should be going somewhere way better than this.
Yeah, I was looking at some of those projections, and they had Grand Canyon and Gonzaga at the Oregon State Corvallis regional. I'm like, so you're going to put 3 top 25 teams in one region? That seems really broken. Thanks, guys. That's awful just because of where they're at in the country. I would be very disappointed if those are good baseball teams. We've already played them this year. I hate playing teams you've already played earlier in the year. I think that's kind of a crappy thing to do to teams in a regional. I like bringing in new teams and making a new thing, but sometimes it's tough.
Well, Mark, don't you know that West Coast baseball fans just don't exist? So it doesn't matter what's written about them.
Yeah, I have to get up at 6 o'clock, come do the show, and I love doing it. And there's tons of us out here, man. I was sending out tweets last night about the softball game and waiting for the baseball game today. I got Oregon State fans that are up 24/7 looking at this stuff. It's great. West Coast baseball's back, baby.
It would just be really nice if we could watch any of it, but we believe
follow the box scores. The box score. It's like the the SWAC or one of those other conferences. It exists on paper, but no one watches it.
Somebody messaged me the other day, and they're like, I saw your clip about going off on the Pac-12, and I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, it's fair. It's all what I'm saying is just truth. I'm just out here truthing and just hating on the Pac-12. I wish that they would just get a commissioner in here that would just want to broadcast the stuff and get the stuff out to the people. And the tournament, we had on the West Coast, we ended our game, the Oregon State game and Cal ended at 1:30. That's 4:30 East Coast. Are you kidding me? They're not able to see that game. They have no idea what happened in that 3-1 baseball game.
I love it because it feels like 24 hours of the college basketball that they had at the beginning of the year, because that game's done. We're rolling back over. We got 8. We got teams warming up at 9.
I was laughing though because I was like, I finished that game and I took a quick nap and I had to let the dog out at 5:45, and then it's 5:55 and Tulane's starting right up right in the morning for me.
Jake, I would really appreciate it if you didn't just take my intellectual property and run it with your own. But
I know. I really am sorry about that. I'm just the encyclopedia. I have no original thoughts.
We've noticed. We've touched on it. We kind of circled the wagons on it. Let's talk about our 16 projected seeds. We kind of all came up with our own and then averaged them out. Mark crunched the numbers, so they may be a little bit fudged. But I will say that there is a little bit of a questionable team in there that I don't like. Maybe we can get me all fired up about that.
Mark, I like it.
Who
So-
are our 16 seeds?
Number 1, Tennessee. I think that's across the board. I mean, unless you guys have any other arguments there, I don't see any way they've done what they have to do. They're at
They should
least
be
in the
almost 1 and
semifinal.
2. That's how far ahead they are.
Yeah,
should
we
get a
had a
bye.
time there. There was a time there where we thought Oregon State and Tennessee had blown just the doors off everybody else. Now it's just Tennessee. Tennessee is out there by themselves. They're on an island. They're the number 1 seed. They're going to make it to the semifinals of the SEC. It doesn't matter. They don't have to do that even. They look like the team that's going to be number 1. They look like a team of destiny. We'll see what happens. Number 2, Stanford. Now, I know that we've gone back and forth about this. Like, do they have to win the Pac-12 tournament? Jake, do they have to win the Pac-12 tournament?
Yeah, I remember we were talking about it in the pregame show. It does kind of feel like that 2 seed is almost kind of locked up for whoever comes out and wins the Pac-12 between Oregon State and Stanford, because I do kind of feel like they're pretty much the same team. They're interchangeable, and that last data point is going to be what separates them. But again, Oregon State has been the better team down the, at the beginning of the season, but Stanford's just been so hot. They've earned that number 2 seed. It really is going to come down to who, wins that final game.
Yeah, what do you think, Noah?
I think it's going to be awfully hard for a committee to put a Pac-12 champion above an SEC tournament champion if it's A&M. I just think that's going to be a little bit dicey. Oregon State, if they win the Pac-12, probably maybe has that little bit of an edge over A&M, but I don't know if they're going to have the guts to put Stanford over A&M. So it's just going to be one of those kind of, maybe we think it, maybe a lot of people think it, but I don't know if the committee and their SEC bias is going to allow Stanford to be the number 2 overall seed. So I have a little bit of a hang up there. They're a very good team. Wouldn't want to play them. But I think A&M is probably going to get that edge if they win and Stanford also wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about that with A&M too down the stretch for not jumping the gun.
That's what it comes into, And then we had number 3, Virginia Tech. They kind of struggled here in their conference tournament. They weren't bad. They just, a lot of these teams needed to play their way in, and Vatek was kind of already locked in as a national seed. I see them anywhere from 3 to 5, and that could depend on the Pac-12 tournament, SEC tournament, kind of how this plays out. If we have a good game with the Pac-12 tournament, maybe they get 2 teams in the top 4. Maybe A&M jumps in that top 4 seed also. So Vatek anywhere from 3 to 5, I'm pretty comfortable with. What do you guys think, Noah?
Yeah, 3 to 5 sounds about right. When you don't really get in that final mix of the conference championship, you should probably be punished a little bit for it, but their body of work easily keeps them as a top 8 seed, not even a debate, especially when we get down in those fringe top 8 teams. They are clearly a step above those teams. I think they'll be fine wherever they end up in that 3 to 5 slot.
Yeah. Jake, you got any comments on that Vatek team? We know you do.
Yeah, I followed them very, very closely. I think what is going to come down to the committee, keeping them in the top 4 despite, probably not making, a run into the final 4 pods that they have, is they have the head-to-head to Miami, and it's always kind of felt like it was Miami and Virginia Tech were going to be the 2 seeds. And again, since Virginia Tech, beat them and has the tiebreaker, they won a lot of ACC series. They've won every single one since Georgia Tech. They really didn't have a lot to play for, and I was joking with AJ on the side thing, is outside of Virginia Tech, Miami, and Notre Dame, all those ACC teams just feel interchangeable. I get them so confused. I don't know who's a 2, who's a 3, who's bubble, and a lot of these teams had a lot to play for. It seemed like, other than Virginia Tech and maybe Clemson, for different reasons. But yeah, Virginia Tech's going to be slotted in, I think, as the 3 seed. A lot of these I think the ACC bubble picture is going to change a lot more than, I guess, the seeding of Miami and Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, that ACC, you could take 11 teams, they could take 8. Who knows what the committee is thinking with these teams? There's a lot of teams that are right on that bubble. Do you take more teams from the SEC? Do you take more teams from the ACC? Has teams like Alabama played their way in? It's going to be really tight here to see what the committee values more versus those conferences. Number 4, we had Oregon State, and I think that we're all on the same page that, they could go anywhere from 2 to 5 also, depending on how this conference tournament plays out. They got UCLA, UCLA has to beat them twice if they want to move to the finals. Both Oregon State and Stanford have done exactly what they're supposed to do in the Pac-12. Jake, do you see a way that Oregon State or Stanford drop out of the top 5?
Not dropping out of the top 5. The only thing that has kind of worried me is that Oregon State, hasn't looked good for the last 2 weeks, but there's been a bevy of teams that have really disappointed. And Oregon State really hasn't even disappointed that much. They've looked really good in the Pac-12 tournament. It seems like they got their mojo back. Maybe it just seemed like they were wanting to, I guess, create some storylines and some drama when they come out and beat Stanford in the championship.
Yeah, I personally thought that they were getting a little tired. They were playing a lot of freshmen. These guys hadn't played 50 games in a season before. Noah, do you see a way Oregon State drops out of the top 5 here?
Not Oregon State, no, probably not. The only way I could see it is if Maryland is just looking dominant in the remainder of the Big Ten tournament, which I don't see happening. It's still the Big Ten tournament. There's not a whole lot of value there.
Yeah.
Maybe if Notre Dame has the same dominant impact, but even then, no.
Yeah, and Maryland, they're already in the losers bracket of the Big Ten tournament, so they have to win out. They don't have any more room for error there. They play Illinois today, and if they win, they play Rutgers tonight. So, those are 2 losable games for that Maryland team. Number 5, we do have A&M coming in. A&M, I believe, is maybe the hottest team in the country other than Stanford. A&M has played their way right to where they need to be. They're in the semifinals already for the SEC tournament. Noah, where's their ceiling? 2, and their floors maybe 8?
I don't believe in the word ceiling or floor. I understand where you're going for with this one. I would say that their floor for a seed would be probably about 7 or 8. I don't think they're going to follow that top 8. But then the ceiling is 2. I could see them all the way up at 2. Like I said, if they win, they beat Tennessee. Maybe they beat Tennessee handily. Stanford doesn't win the Pac-12 tournament, then I think that they end up as that number 2 seed. But when it comes to ceilings or floors and any other type of discussion, I will have no tolerance.
Cut them out. Yeah, we'll call it a range from 2 to 8 here. Jake, I know you're an A&M guy. You're believing in them. Do they have enough to win the SEC tournament and jump all the way up to 2?
I think they do, and I know that we follow a lot of other sports too. So I think the basketball team with the Tennessee is kind of holding in A&M's minds of kind of go out, control your own destiny. But A&M fans, I think if we do kind of get a screw job, we got to remember we lost to Iowa, we lost to Penn, and Penn's not a tournament team. Yeah, we have these wins, but again, we're still kind of in a gravy type season that's still unexpected. And we really do kind of just need to enjoy the ride as A&M fans and just be happy that we're going to be a top 8 seed national host, because I, of all people, did not see this, March, February, or anything like that. And they're going to be one of the more dangerous teams because of just the clutch hitting factor. It seems like no lead is kind of too big for them, as, Alabama, kick the ball around, have 4 errors, be down 5, then go 10 unanswered and win. I think that's just the game plan for A&M. Just the team culture, I think, of A&M has really kind of changed too as the season's gone along, and they are going to be rewarded with. I think they're going to fall into 3 to 6 range, and if they beat Tennessee, they're definitely going to be top 4.
Yeah, they've definitely played their way into a national seed. It's funny when you see a team that fields so poorly like A&M, but it doesn't seem to affect them because they just come out, and those guys that make an error, then all of a sudden they come out and they hit a double the next inning, and it doesn't matter. They just erase it. It's really fun to see the culture, like you said, in that dugout now. They're all up. They're ready to go.
They're loose, too. They're a very, very loose team.
Yeah. They want to be there, and they think they belong. And, they've proven that so far they have. They're already in the semis no matter what. So, number 6, we talked about Maryland. I personally don't love Maryland. I have tried to keep them out of my top 16 for so long. They've played their way into it, but now they're playing their way back into trouble here in the Big Ten. Noah, does it matter if they don't win the Big Ten tournament now?
It really depends on what other teams do around them. And when you look at some of those teams that are right below that 8 seed, some of them are already out of their conference tournament. So they may not be able to fall out of that 8. They could end up as number 8. They could end up as maybe even number 9. But I think they're safely in that top 10 for sure. You would really like to see them win the Big Ten, especially because it's a rather weak conference other than Rutgers, maybe Illinois. I think they might even be in the tournament now, Illinois, but they were a bubble team for a while. But other than that, no, I think Maryland's pretty safe. Don't know a whole lot about Maryland's offense, but their pitching staff is very, very good. Wouldn't want to see them in a regional, because you talk about guys like Florida State and their 1-2 punch. Maryland might be just as good.
Yeah, they've kind of gone quietly under the radar, but, us baseball fans who actually watch games, we know that they got a good 1-2 punch there to start. Jake, is that enough to put them as a national seed? It seems like the national committee is looking that way.
I had them as the last national seed on mine. I think the team, they're going to fall behind Miami. They're going to fall behind Southern Miss, but they definitely have earned it. For a while there, it did seem like the Big Ten was going to be a 3-team conference with, Iowa and, my Scarlet Knights fighting Tony S's. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of what the committee does with Rutgers and Iowa. And I think if Rutgers and Iowa, if I was in and Rutgers is a 2, I don't see why there's any reason why Maryland shouldn't be the national seed. They played a decent conference schedule. I know that Baylor played down a lot this year, but that's really out of Maryland's control that Baylor, crapped the bed. But they tried, they went out, they went south. They deserve to be kind of in the same discussion as the Southern Miss, Texas State, Gonzaga, kind of that group of teams is where I would kind of slate them in. And I do kind of think they are second behind Southern Miss in that group.
As I always say about mid-majors, they did what we asked them to do. They went out and they played teams. The funny thing in that one is, now you got, they're in the losers bracket of that Big Ten tournament. They got, Michigan on the other side that could steal a bid. Penn State and Illinois, who are teams that are right on the bubble, probably out. They're right there trying to steal a bid also with these wins. So they have more to play for. I don't know if Maryland really gets up and gets going for these games. But even if Maryland does win, then they get Rutgers tonight. So it'll be a nice little rematch to see what goes on there.
Yeah, and Penn State's a very, very pesky team. They have some horrible losses, but they also beat West Virginia and Pitt, and they've stolen a couple series in the Big Ten. So they're kind of a weird team because you don't know which Penn State you're going to get. Are you going to get the one that lost to Radford, or are you going to get the one that beat Pitt? So that's going to be kind of a trap game, in my opinion, for them.
Yeah,
I might make my way down to the Big Ten tournament today. This sounds pretty exciting. I like the idea of Penn State being kind of good, and I want to see Maryland play Rutgers. If Maryland plays Rutgers tonight, I'm definitely going.
Maryland-Rutgers would be a great game. I think that one's great. You could see Penn State or Iowa versus Michigan also, which Michigan was my sleeper conference tournament pick. I picked them to win the Big Ten. I think that they have enough. I think there's some good teams left. I don't think the conference is good overall, but I think the 6 teams that they have left are the teams that you would want to watch. So it's worth giving it a shot. Number 7, we've got Notre Dame. They did make the ACC semifinals now. As much as I hate to say it, they are the ACC team that has played their way into the best using the conference tournament as its booster. Noah, what do you got about Notre Dame here?
Well, it's thrilling is what it is. Just finally see the team that I have kind of stood up for all year for really no reason pass Miami, because they just lost that series to Miami, but they're just proving it in the conference tournament that Miami is fraudulent. And we're seeing it. We saw it in front of our eyes. Miami has lost 2 games in that conference tournament. They're done. They're cooked. They're overrated. I hope they follow that top 8 seed. I have a feeling that they're not going to, but would love if Miami had to go on the road at some point in this conference tournament. But point being, Notre Dame, good team.
Yeah, Jake, I mean, I know you've seen them play. Notre Dame's a good team. They don't have anything that jumps off the page, but they can kind of just take care of business. What do you see here with them playing Pitt here to start the ACC semifinals?
Yeah, they do kind of remind me a lot of A&M, where they just kind of seem to get under everybody's skin that they're so good, and they're really statistically not supposed to be as good as they are. But I do kind of have them behind Miami still. Noah, got to rep the brand for you a little bit. Noah likes the letter N because it's just the U upside down. I do think they're still behind Miami a little bit. Like I said, I feel like the ACC tournament for the big dogs isn't really that important. It's more for kind of their bubble teams to get these, big wins. And you got to take it with a grain of salt. Is it seeming like, the Final Four of the ACC isn't going to give Notre Dame, a big boost like it would beating Virginia Tech or, some of the other top dogs. So it's kind of a strange spot because they're playing other bubble teams who have a lot to play for. And it's probably going to hurt their RPI just because of how flawed RPI is this year. But I do have them behind Miami. I don't think they deserve to be a national seed simply because I don't think their stadium is up to par. And that is kind of the tiebreaker for me is as crappy as Miami Stadium is, it's light years ahead of, Rudy Field or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I'm not big on Notre Dame, but I did have them slightly below Miami still. However, if they do go out and they win the ACC tournament, I think they're going to be a national seed. I don't think there's anything holding them back at this point. They've done everything they're supposed to do. We all thought that there would be at least 2 national seeds in the ACC. Notre Dame's played their way to have a chance of being one. So the team we're talking about next, though, is Miami at 8. We have them right on the borderline there with Southern Miss being their 9 team, but let's go into Miami first. Noah, you say they're fraudulent. I say that they are good. I've been calling them out all year saying that they're a good team. Don't love the field, but what do you got, Noah?
Well, I can't be too disappointed. I had Miami at 8 myself, but if Southern Miss wins their conference tournament, I'm giving them the nudge, even though I don't think Southern Miss is better than Miami. I just hate Miami. So, yeah, it was fun to watch Miami completely fall apart the last couple weeks. Remember, they played North Dakota State, and then after that, they lost a whole bunch of games. So, kind of a little bit of karma for them. Yeah, Miami is not a very good team, and even if you keep them at home, I feel confident that they're not going to win their Super Regional.
Not going to go into supers. Well, Jake, you know that Miami team, we love them. You've got it on today. That Miami team, I think, is good enough. I don't think they were playing for anything in the ACC tournament. Do you think that they hurt themselves, though, by not winning in either one of those games?
I don't, just because it didn't really feel like they had a lot to play for. They kind of had, their destiny already set up, and then, Rake, when they get on you really fast, and it was almost just seemed like they wanted to save their pitching, maybe try a little younger guys. But I do think Miami is a little bit better than Notre Dame, and that really is going to be the discussion, as it's going to come down to Notre Dame or Miami. If you remember correctly, Noah, Miami swept a now host North Carolina team. So that's what D1 Baseball says their host, and Miami holds a sweep over them. But Miami is, for as much crap as we give them, they are a barometer consistency team this year. It seems like every team that lost to them is, not really on the bubble, and is on the bubble in the ACC. And the teams that beat Miami were the class of the ACC. They really did play very good down the stretch. I know that they played North Dakota State, so we're not going to give them a whole bunch of credit for run-ruling North Dakota State, but Miami is going to be, my kind of 6, 7, 8 range. They're going to be one of the bottom-tier national seeds.
Yeah, they finished second in the conference regular season, right behind Vatech, and I think both those teams are very good, and they finished just ahead of Notre Dame when they beat Notre Dame in that final series. So I'd be fine if they put 3 of them in the top 8. I don't really love it. I'd like to see just 2. But if they put 3 in there, sure, let's do it. The other team we talked about, Southern Miss. I've been on them all year. I keep saying, I went out on a limb. I said they're the best team in Mississippi. People lost their minds on me. Jake, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm not right. I don't see a way that Southern Miss doesn't host at this point, even if they lose that conference tournament game right now to UTSA.
Yeah, I was probably the biggest, hater of Southern Miss. Very early on, I said that, even if they host, I think Ole Miss goes further. But again, they've played in a tougher conference in the Conference USA. It's playing up. They're probably going to have 3 teams the way UTSA is kind of rolling into it. And if, a 3-team conference champion, far and away champion too, I might add, they deserve to be the host. They are the class of a 3-team conference. And the Conference USA is kind of back a little bit. I know that they kind of got left behind in a lot of the realignment stuff, but, Southern Miss, Old Dominion, UTSA is a little bit weird because their stadium feels like a high school stadium. So you got to take it all with a grain of salt when I went and saw them. And maybe the hot dog memory is just kind of holding in my mind when I think about UTSA. But they're our tournament team, and Southern Miss is going to be a very, very tough out. They're probably going to get a second-tier SEC or ACC team, and that's going to be a bloodbath, it seems like.
Yeah, there's an outside chance to get 4 there because Old Dominion's got to beat La Tech twice. So if La Tech can win that,
that's what I was thinking
there
of,
too. La Tech, ODU, UTSA, they might get all 4 of those teams in. Noah, do you see any way now, even if they lose, Southern Miss still hosts?
No. Going into the conference tournament, I thought they have to win or make the championship game. Not the case anymore. They're safely in. Things are falling apart across the country. Southern Miss has benefited extremely well. Hopefully other teams benefit, like maybe an Oklahoma type. But Southern Miss, exciting team. I'm a little bit disappointed in the environment that they've had at that conference tournament. I would like it to be a little bit more insane, especially when Southern Miss is playing. Because if I want to see them with a super regional, I want to see that place ready to explode. So right now I have them at 9. If the crowd gets a little bit better, I would like to see them host that super regional.
Yeah, and we saw that crowd get up to 6,200, 6,400 people when they had the Mississippi State Ole Miss down there. I think that the rain has really dampened the fan spirit because they used to really fill that thing up, but there has been a lot of rain delays down there, and that's been really hard to deal with. It's hard to keep fans there too when it's raining and, hey, we're going to get the game going in an hour, and they're standing out there getting soaked for an hour. It's tough. So I see why they've dropped off, but I really wanted to see that place crazy tonight. Hopefully we get to see a little bit of that when they play UTSA.
And it is
Number
very tough to host one of these tournaments, as we kind of seen with Maine and a couple of Army dropping a cup games. It's not really the home field advantage of a home type series, and you do kind of get drawn out a little bit. So you almost want to applaud them that they're still having some fans show up, because it has been such an uphill battle with some of these games.
Yeah, weather and hosting responsibilities and everything else you got to do. It is a lot. It's a lot to host those, especially in these mid majors. Speaking of another team who did not do particularly well in the ACC, Louisville. We all thought that they did pretty well down the stretch. They were fine. They took care of business against Virginia, who seems to be scuffling. Jake, let's hear
I
you
had
say
them a
Louisville.
lot lower. I think they're one of the teams that's fallen out. They had a lot to play for in the ACC tournament. I have them behind some of these Big 12 schools. That's kind of where I'm slotting them in, as these Big 12 schools are going to go down at the stretch and play each other a little bit more. But they are not a team that I really trust a lot in the ACC. It seems like they're the most up and down. For SEC fans, they're a lot like LSU, where they play lights out one weekend and then crap the bed the next weekend. They're going to be a very difficult team for somebody to pick. And again, it's either going to be a really easy regional. I could see them being 2-0. Flip side of that is I could see them being in Omaha. Their peaks and valleys are going to be very, very strange. But I don't think they're a national host, and I think they're going to get a very, very tough, supers. If they end up pushing through, they're going to get a very, very tough draw.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could say it anywhere from our 10 to 20 here is they're all kind of that same team where they've had really good games this season, and then they've had some really bad games. Noah, I know you and I both love Louisville here. I think that they're anywhere from, 9 to 16 would be fine with me. I think they're going to host. What do you got them at?
Louisville is historically one of those teams that I don't trust at all. Maybe I could put them in, make it fraudulent and make them the L, but
Fraudville.
For some reason, I put a little bit more stock into them this year, and then they just absolutely fell apart in the ACC tournament. I don't think there's any top 16 team that's been hurt more by their conference tournament performance than Louisville. They were probably on that 7 seed line at their peak, and right now I could see them at 13. But wherever we have them right now is probably good enough. We'll see where those teams like Texas and how those kind of teams change where Louisville's standing right now.
Yeah, there's so many teams below them that are not really helping themselves either, and there's teams above them that are already pretty much locked in. So there's not a whole lot of room for them to move back and forth, I don't think. After they beat Virginia in that ending season, conference season, I thought that they were right there in the top 8, and then they just so bad. So I think, anywhere they're not going to be hosting a super unless there's a upset. But, I see them anywhere from 9 to 16. Speaking of Texas, number 11, we have Texas in at number 11. And I think that 3 weeks ago, if any of us had thought that, we'd be shocked. And now we're looking at it going, they have a legitimate chance of winning the Big 12 tournament here. Is that what they have to do, Noah, to put themselves in, is win the Big 12 tournament?
I don't think so. I think they're in right now. Just the way that things have fallen apart for a lot of teams, it'll be determined how high they are, of course. But I think the question is, could they play themselves into a top 8 seed if enough things go poorly enough for other teams? I don't necessarily think so. But Texas is – we all knew this would happen. We, especially Jake, kind of led the charge of setting up so well for Texas to host. And here they are, not only hosting, but kind of safely hosting. For a second, I thought that it would for sure be Tennessee at the 1, Texas at the 16. So it's set up for them to play. And then they'd throw Arkansas as the 2 in Austin. And then we would have kind of that ultimate, let's watch this super regional breakdown. But that's not even going to happen anymore. Texas is back.
Yeah. They've done what we've asked them to do. We've bought into our friends over at Occupy Left Field and been listening to them all year. Jake, you had it. You said Texas was there. Did they played their way right into a national seed?
Yes, and I think too the most important part too for Texas fans is they're going to get to see kind of what their pitching is made of. OU, Kansas State on the other side of the bracket. I know they still have to beat Oklahoma State 1 of 2, but that sweep from in Austin that Oklahoma State had feels like life ages ago. Texas took care of business in that first game, looked pretty easy and not a lot of maintenance or anything like that. But they're going to benefit greatly from Texas Tech being out because Texas always seems to have OU's number in baseball. Tech always seems to have Texas's number in baseball. I like that as a Texas fan in OU Kansas State. Maybe that Texas can avenge the Kansas State loss that they had, so it's kind of a redemption tour. But I do kind of almost see them as a national seed, because if they get through this Big 12 tournament undefeated, they are going to be the hottest team in the Big 12. And I think as much crap as we give the Big 12, and it being not that deep, is they have to put them somewhere. And it'd be ludicrous, in my opinion, to not have, a Big 12 champion in a top 8 seed, but it's kind of seeming like that's what it's setting up to be. But yeah, if you would have told me a couple weeks ago after that Kansas State series that Texas would be in a national seed, I probably would have laughed in your face. But they found a good number 2 guy. I forget his name, the lefty from California, big ego type guy. But they found a good number 2. They're getting the clutch hitting. They're playing in a bigger ballpark, so it's not just the long ball. They're playing good baseball, and they're back to the loose, easy Texas feel that we saw at Minute Maid Park.
Yeah, I think that they've played their way in. We've talked about it. I think that both teams that make the conference tournament championship there are probably hosts, but I don't know. I mean, I would be putting a lot on Oklahoma, but they've been hot down the stretch. Speaking of another team who's done a lot in the conference tournament and looked good their last weekend, LSU, number 12. Jake, LSU was out 3 weeks ago. We had them not hosting, and now they're played their way back to hosting. Even with that loss to Tennessee, was that enough impressive of a loss there to keep them in the top 16?
I do think it is. I have them as the 16 seed just because I think that they'll try and put an SEC team kind of in that Knoxville regional. But yeah, I mean, what a turnaround for a team to go in and swept Vandy. They've looked really, really good in the SEC tournament. Them and Kentucky, I would say, have been my 2 biggest surprises. They look like the LSU of old, where they're going stealing bases, pitching the ball really good. They feel like a vintage LSU team. And yeah, they have earned the right to it. I do want to apologize to our producer, Alex. I clowned and laughed in his face when he said that LSU still had a chance to be a host.
I have loved LSU. I've picked them a lot this year. I think they're very good. You got to remember, too, they're doing this without one of their better players, Jacob Berry, right now. Noah, if they get Berry back, does that make them a very dangerous 12?
Oh, of course. LSU is always dominant, especially when you put them in Alex Box Stadium. I think they said last night that LSU has never made a College World Series where they weren't hosting. So the spin on that is when they host, they go to the College World Series, not 100% of the time, but it's the first step. It's the first ingredient in that recipe. And Jacob Berry is one of the best players in the country. I think he'd be playing right now if this was the NCAA tournament. That broken finger or whatever he has going on, they kind of talked last night how he might even come in and pinch hit if needed. You obviously don't want to rush him back for a game where you don't need it, and I don't think LSU needs it anymore. I did think at the beginning of this SEC tournament that they needed a win, and they already have that win, even if it's against Kentucky, who's the worst team in the SEC tournament, but they're still alive. So
Kentucky's
that
hot,
one's
too. That's a different Kentucky team.
Yeah, that win's looking pretty good for them. And, good for them. Good for Kentucky, but I was really hoping to see LSU not get that hosting because I just don't think they're that great. But when they're on, they are very, very good. When they're on, they're a top 5 team in the country. But when they're off, they're a low 2 seed.
Yeah, when they play defense, which is few and far between, but when they do play defense, they have enough pitching, they have enough offense, they have more than enough offense. I think what they're going to do is the committee likes to have that drama like we've talked about. I can see them setting them opposite seed whatever Oregon State is. So if they give Oregon State a 4 seed, they could be LSU 13. If Oregon State gets that 5 seed, then I can see them being the 12. Committee loves the drama, so I think that's what they're looking at doing. Number 13, we have a team that's been kind of silent because they're in a bad conference, but they've beat some good teams this year. Texas State. I don't know if they're going to get enough national love. Jake, tell me how Texas State does stay in there because their tournament doesn't really matter.
Yeah, their tournament is a little bit difficult, and I think too they kind of are falling victims to being so close to Texas and Texas A&M. I mean, San Marcos is only about 30 minutes from Austin, and I really don't anticipate all 3 teams in kind of that trash triangle, as I like to call it, of just trash Texas cities. I don't anticipate there being a third, but they really have kind of gone under the radar, which is kind of weird to say because they're so loud in that Texas series. But they are a very, very good team, and they're getting hot at the right time. They're peaking, setting school records and wins. And I know that they have capacity issues and facility issues. That'd be the only thing that kind of holds me back. But I think that there's just a couple better teams in front of them that deserve it a little bit more than Texas State, in my opinion. I'd rather it be Santa Barbara if we're going to do kind of that mid-major team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Texas State should be in there, but they've done so much this year. They have, 48 wins now and only 11 losses, something like that. Noah, we know that they're good. We know that they beat big teams. They get up for those games. They go horns down. Do you think the committee is going to send 3 teams from Texas?
Well, I've got a take is that Texas State has been the most consistent, other than Tennessee, has been the most consistent team in the country this season. They get no respect. That's because of maybe RPI, whatever kind of weird statistic you want to use. But you talk about a team that as soon as they got ranked, they never fell out. Not a lot of teams can say that. Even Virginia Tech has been
They
a
never
little bit.
rose either. That's the other thing is I feel like they've always kind of been in that 18 range.
Yeah, they
Didn't boost them.
They don't get the love. I think it's collegiate baseball, which is obviously even worse than Baseball America. They've had them in the top 5 at certain times this season, which that's their own prerogative. But Texas State is an excellent team. They deserve to host a regional. I would think that it's going to be kind of criminal if they don't host a regional, just because they deserve it so much. They haven't really played any big dogs other than Texas and all the Texas schools. They haven't left the state to really kind of play those kind of teams to really set a barometer for them, because they're going to get up to play those Texas teams a little bit more than they might even get up to play like a Southern Miss in that mix. But hey, let's see it. I want to see Texas State host that regional. I don't know who they're going to send there. Probably a really good 2 team to screw them over. But give me Texas State in a regional.
You gonna be at the square now if they host?
Yeah, I'm known for traveling to Texas.
I think also Texas State did beat Arizona earlier in the year, and that's turning out to look like a pretty good win too, because that Arizona team is very good also. I think that they should be hosting. I just don't believe that the committee is going to give them enough love because of their conference and because of their stadium size and everything else. I think, unfortunately, they're going to get sent to A&M or are going to get sent to Texas and have to be the 2 seed in one of those regionals, and that's just, again, like you said, pretty criminal. Another mid-major team that I don't think is getting any love because they're on the West Coast is Gonzaga. Do they have to win their conference tournament, Noah? I know that they have to beat San Diego twice today to win that conference tournament. They won the regular season title. They beat Oklahoma State on the road. They beat Oregon State this year. They've done the things we've asked them to do. Do they have to still do more, Noah?
I think they have to win the conference tournament just because of how everybody else is interpreting it. I think we're a little bit higher on Gonzaga than the average Bear. Without looking, I think D1 has them as a 2 right now. And those guys are obviously the gold standard when it comes to kind of projecting these brackets. We don't know how accurate they are. I'm just looking. They are a 2 seed in Corvallis. that would be I think Gonzaga is a little bit better than that. They kind of did get screwed out of that hosting opportunity last year. So the committee does have a record of saying no thanks, Gonzaga. I don't know if they have the facilities. I don't think they have the fans to host a regional. Their Twitter account is always like a ghost town, but Gonzaga deserves to be in that conversation. But just because of where they are nationally, according to D1 and those other guys, I do think they have to win.
Yeah, I think that the WCC is a lot like the Pac-12, where they've really done a discredit to their teams by not nationally promoting these guys and getting out there and be like, hey, this is a team worth watching. It's not like basketball where they get out there and they scream from the mountaintops, hey, watch our basketball teams. We have good teams. Jake, do they have to win this tournament? I think they do. Noah thinks they do. Where are you at?
I think they don't have to win it, but I think they're already officially out of hosting just because they lost that first game. And I see you nodding your head. I think they deserve it, but they do kind of feel like they're one of those teams that are going to get the NCAA screw job. Because, I mean, here's the weird part to me is San Diego is going to be a bubble team. And when you lose to a bubble team, that's not a bad loss. And I feel like they're almost getting punished for that loss to San Diego, where they almost had to, roll through their entire conference. And, even if they beat them twice, I really do kind of feel that first game being held against them, which I think that they deserve it. I think that they should be a host. But again, not a lot of people have seen them. They're kind of like how UConn was for a little bit, where they were just kind of, slotted in and, 18, 19. So I think they've done everything in their power. I just think it's on their conference for not promoting them. I think it's on, the NCAA has a history of screwing kind of the underdogs and the smaller guys in favor of money. But I think Gonzaga deserves to be it, but I don't see them being a host.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think that they're going to be, the team that gets dropped off with Oregon State and Stanford getting so much love on the West Coast. You'd love to see a third team from over there, whether it's, UCSB or Gonzaga, one of those teams I just don't see it happening. Unfortunately, I think the committee's kind of shut it down. They're not going to really give any more West Coast bids out. Then we got, 3 teams between 15, 16, and 17 that were very close. Oklahoma, TCU, Oklahoma State. I don't think that TCU or Oklahoma State should be hosting. I think that if Oklahoma wins, I think that they're in. Jake, tell me why you got TCU and Oklahoma State.
I had Oklahoma State because I went out on a hunch and said that Oklahoma State was going to beat them twice. And at the time, they're going to beat Texas twice. And that at the time, we're going to beat Tech. I really didn't anticipate Tech dropping off. And that does kind of change it a little bit. I had them as high as number 9. If we remove, that horrible, horrible Tech series that they had, they really are one of the better teams in the Big 12. They had one bad weekend, and then they really didn't look that competitive. But they bang the ball around the yard a lot. They use a lot of different pitchers. They have some, position player pitchers that come in. But that was my kind of hot take, was I thought they were going to go out and win the Big 12. And just to kind of harp on OU, I think OU should be punished for having that Texas series in Dallas. I don't think that OU feels that they have the facilities or even the money to host. And I think that that's something that the committee should hold against them, because they've played so many. Oh, let's play Tech in Amarillo. Let's play Oklahoma State in Tulsa. They really don't have a home atmosphere to set up and host a regional.
Yeah, I that's how I feel. TCU has a great facility. It's fun to go down there and stuff. But just because they won the regular season, I still don't think that they should be in. Oklahoma State has to beat Texas twice and then win the Big 12 tournament for me to believe they're in. I'm bigger on Oklahoma. How about you, Noah?
Yeah, I'm a big Oklahoma guy here, just because like Jake said, I project Oklahoma to win the conference tournament. And then I understand the TCU arguments when you look at they won the regular season. That's got to carry some weight. Oklahoma State is just – I have a lot of respect for Oklahoma State. Good team. I went down to Kansas to see them play this year. They are a very, very good team, but they have just fallen apart too much. And even though we don't want to prop up teams like North Carolina who have played well to end the year, we kind of still have to punish teams who fell apart when the rubber meets the road. And at this point, I don't think you can justify putting Oklahoma State in if they don't win the conference tournament. And that's the angle I looked at it. And that's probably why you didn't have Oklahoma in there, because you don't have them winning.
Yeah.
But right now, I think when Oklahoma State's kind of behind the 8 ball right now, Oklahoma's played perfectly in the Big 12 tournament. Give me Oklahoma.
Yeah, I agree. I think if Oklahoma State does do what you said, Jake, if they do beat Texas twice and then they go and beat Oklahoma in the championship, sure, you could give them a top 16. I'd be okay with that. I think that the 2 people on either side, whoever wins that, I think that they're in. I think they're going to be hosting a team that is right on the bubble for us that we, should probably have in. That's been the hottest team, that was a top 10 team at one point this season before they had all their other issues come through and losing their ace for the season. ECU, they have been on fire. They've won, 18 straight games. They look like the team of destiny down there. Where are they at in their conference tournament? They are playing Tulane today, and then Tulane's got to beat them twice. I think if ECU takes care of business and wins that, they could very well be seeing a 16 seed. What do you think, Noah?
Well, I've been watching East Carolina this entire show, and I can't help but not look away at the screen in front of me. East Carolina has tied it up 4-4. They were down 4-0. Having a lot of fun watching East Carolina. I'll tell you, these guys know how to wear purple and gold. These are maybe the best gold uniforms I've ever seen. Certainly better than any SEC team that might wear the same color. Love East Carolina. My worry with East Carolina is that they're going to get really hot, come to Omaha, and they'll be the kind of underdog team. I really don't want people to view them as that way. ECU should have a target on their back, because I think they should be hosting a regional. I had them in at 15. I think they're going to be in. If they win their conference tournament, they should absolutely be a host. Even if they don't win the conference tournament, I think that they have a strong argument to be in that 15-16 range, especially when you have a lot of these guys just falling off, like the Texas Techs of the world. East Carolina has snuck in. They're playing great ball at the right time. Like I tweeted earlier, we kind of forgot they existed, and now they've won 18 in a row. I would like to see them maybe for their own confidence, maybe lose a game and then win again, because it's really hard to try and win, 28 games in a row to win a national championship?
Yeah. That would be – I'm with you. I think that, and they started off the conference not great either. They lost 2 of their first 3, and people were just instantly down on them from their preseason And then they've really clawed their way all the way back. People were super high on Tulane and UCF down there, thinking that they were just going to run away with the conference. And ECU ended up crushing and winning the regular season. Jake, do you think ECU has a chance without winning the conference tournament this weekend?
I do. I had them as 13, just because there was a while there where the American almost had 4 teams that were going to be in. They had Tulane, they had U of H, they had UCF, and ECU has just gone out and dominated them and kind of kicked them all even off the bubble, it seems like. ECU deserves to be the host. They walked through their cakewalk of a conference, and the American is a very, very good baseball conference. And it seems like no one's kind of given it the love they deserve just because ECU's kind of gone out and dominated it. And they're going to be a very, very good team. I could see them being a very dangerous super regional team as well. They have good pitching. They have clutch hitting, it seems like, at the right times. And I think more importantly, they know how to win. They don't really blow leads down the stretch. They are a very good team. And, they did kind of have some off the field issues, but it's really great to kind of see the team kind of rally around and, win the tournament. And I don't think Tulane beats them twice. Tulane doesn't even have a coach. They don't have a Friday starter. The Friday starter is now their Tuesday guy. So
yeah, I think ECU has done enough. I think that they have looked hot. I think that the committee loves hot teams late in the season, which is why they look at all these teams like the North Carolina that we don't believe should host. Speaking of a team who's kind of gone the other direction and probably played their way out, Virginia. We were high on them. We had them as a 8 seed at times. They have really just played their way out of it. Jake, I know you love the state of Virginia. What happened?
I think, Virginia, Arkansas, Auburn, all 3 of those teams had very, very good chances to go in, play really good in their conference tournaments and host. And all 3 of them just kind of disappeared at the wrong time. The mantra of Virginia is, Geloff getting the clutch hits, doing the pitching, just enough to keep them in the game. And it's just disappeared. They look like a completely different team. They're going to be a very, average 2. I think they're kind of even falling into that 10-16 range, being in that kind of regional. They're not going to get that favorable regional anymore, just kind of the way that they have fallen so flat in the ACC tournament. And again, it'd be one thing too with the ACC tournament if they came out flat one day and it's like, okay, they're done. But they've looked really flat in kind of all their games so far.
Yeah, they've put up too many zeros and low run scores. They were scoring over 11 runs a game and only giving up 3 runs a game for the first 30 games of the season. They really fell apart there. Noah, do you see them maybe turning around being a good 2 seed here?
Well, the thing with Virginia baseball is that once you count them out is when they thrive. So I think that Virginia kind of got the feeling that everybody was looking at them. They decided to lose a couple games. Think about Virginia's runs to Omaha. Almost none of them have been foreseen. Maybe in 2015 when they had that loaded team with Derek Fisher, but who knows with Virginia? They get sent down to South Carolina last year and they create some havoc, and then they come out. They end up hosting a super regional in that South Carolina ballpark. Who knows what can happen with Virginia? But we've seen them play at their best, and right now, if this is their worst, I still like their odds of being able to compete with just about any team in the country. But it is a little bit concerning when they have looked flat for the past few weeks.
Yep, I agree. I agree with what Jake said too. Auburn, Arkansas, Virginia, these are very good teams that played their way out of hosting probably.
Vandy's another one.
Vandy. I was talking about good teams, but
Well, then why'd you mention Auburn?
Auburn fans, I've been rooting for you this year. That was a bad loss. So that's what we got, though. That's our 16 seeds that we think are right there on the bubble. It's going to be really interesting to see. We have our show that we're going to do Monday. I don't know if we've announced that yet to the general public, but we're going to be doing a release show on Monday. So that'll be really exciting. Come join us on that day. But we still got more to talk about today.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, buddy.
Traditions.
Oh, man.
Jake, obviously you have your bubbles and you're not scoring any runs in Omaha. What are your favorite home field traditions in college baseball?
Do you want to do best first or worst first?
Whichever you want.
So my best was ball 5. Often imitated, never replicated. Greatest tradition in all of college baseball, most intimidating. Numerous other guys said that they actually come out and hear that. And for as good as the bubbles are, the ball 5 is kind of where I think A&M strikes fear into their opponents. There's going to be ball 5s at a super this year. That's my best one. My worst tradition is Pac-12 baseball and the lack of in-person support.
I'm not gonna lie. Looking at that Pac-12 tournament, and all you see is Oregon State fans. I had one of my followers send me a picture. Like, "Oh, did the Oregon Ducks send their one Duck fan down to the stadium?" Because there was literally one Duck fan watching the Ducks play. It is very sad that you only see the Arizona State because it's in Scottsdale. They had a little bit of travel. Stanford had some fans, but Oregon State really is the only people that had more than thousands of people down there. It is very sad to see the lack of support for these ball clubs down there. That's a fair assessment, Jake.
We did get a comment about the hate on the Pac-12.
Dylan, you know that's Pac-12 stuff. We've been talking about that for weeks. It's just tough to watch. It's tough to watch across the country. They don't make it accessible, and the tournament format this year has been horrendous with the timing. So I hope that they get that fixed. I already sent them an idea of how they can fix it next year by having it at 2 different hosts. So there's no 45 minutes between these games so that we don't have games going until 4:30 in the morning for East Coast people. My favorite tradition, and I know it's going to be weird because I'm a Pac-12 guy, my favorite tradition is the cowbells. Mississippi State, I think that is a really cool thing. I like how it's loud. I like how that stadium gets up and get going. I know they're not in it this year, but I really wanted to give them a shout out because I think that that's a really fun, awesome tradition that those fans really get behind and make it a really cool thing. The thing I hate, it's right there. I don't know how much you guys have watched Oregon Duck games, but they have football. They do the shout between the third and fourth quarter where the whole stands get up and sing that stupid ass song. Well, now they've brought it to baseball. So their 7-minute stretch song is shout. And it's sad. I was hoping that they would do something next to that ballpark. PK Park is gorgeous. Oregon Duck baseball has a really good coach in Waz. Shout has got to go. That's got to get out of baseball. It's not a baseball thing. It's almost as bad as the wave.
Ban the shout.
I also went with the Mississippi State tradition, but not the cowbells. I went with left field lounge being my favorite tradition in college baseball. Just the grills and all the smoke, and then they feed all the players after the game, win or lose. It's a fantastic tradition. You see all these interviews, and you have these guys being handed racks of ribs and all these to-go platters for when they go home. Especially this year when you have Mississippi State getting swept by some good teams, and they're still anxious to hand them out food and say, "Thanks for coming down. Thanks for beating the living tar out of us, but have some barbecue." And it's so cool. Like in that Rafael Palmeiro, Will Clark documentary, you saw where it kind of started, and the billows of smoke just always look so cool. It's a unique flair, and I'm glad they kept it around for the new stadium. I don't think it's quite as good just because it's kind of a little bit of that new age flair, but you still get to see.
I'll talk about that.
It's more commercialized now, unfortunately, but it is still a cool thing. I agree with you. I think it's pretty awesome, and feeding the opposing players is always awesome.
So that was my freshman year. Was last year the old one, and some of those rigs were pretty sketchy. They were very unsafe. I remember one time I went to one, and there's probably 40 or 50 people in something, and I was like, if this thing tips, it's gonna tip over like next to us. It almost feels like a boardwalk now, and I really do kind of like it. I love how they have the alumni on one side and the students on the other side, and they really don't ever seem to have any problems with that. And I think what really speaks volume about Mississippi State fans is, despite being last in the SEC tournament, they showed out right until the end. That Tennessee game was still pretty an electric atmosphere.
With electric atmospheres come my least favorite tradition, the Vandy Whistler. I'm not sure it's an official tradition, but it's getting out of hand. Now people know there are two whistlers. Not a lot of people knew that, but now that Mincy's video has gone, quote, viral, everybody sees the other whistler who is somehow less gross, but still like not a good.
He's still gross.
Yeah, still gross, but he doesn't look like he's taking a bath in a deep fryer like the other one. But yeah, the whistler everywhere you go, even people who don't watch college baseball ever immediately notice the Vandy Whistler when they walk in. Who's that clown whistling? And there are a lot of people who are just used to it. They just tone it out. It's been so nice to see the SEC tournament go the way it goes because the Whistler got quiet really quickly, thankfully. As I tweeted, I hope they send him up to Spokane. Get him out of here. I don't think the Whistler can make that trip. I'm sure he will, though.
As long as he doesn't come to Corvallis, because I will lose my mind. I will just literally go stand. I will start videotaping myself standing next to him, and every time he starts to whistle, I'll just start screaming or clapping. I'm done. It's over. It's a horrible tradition. It's not good for the game. It doesn't boost anything. Even Vanderbilt fans now are kind of over it. You can kind of tell that they're tired of defending this guy or these guys. It's a horrible thing, and it's made the SEC enjoyable now that they're eliminated. So,
Scoreboard.
Yeah, for as great as Vandy is, with the tradition, I think the black and the gold look really good. I find myself always rooting against Vandy. Noah, I really hope Vandy comes to Omaha because I have
Thank you
just
so much.
I have the perfect Vandy shirt, and Mark knows what it is. I'm gonna save it so we can have a big reveal, but it's gonna be tremendous. And Mitzi really did do the Lord's work with calling out the nice whistler. Which if that's the nice whistler, I want to know what kind of like fry cook level grease the other guy is, or what kind of
God.
ambulance chaser lawyer. They're terrible. The SEC is better when Vandy is bad, and I for a long while there I was kind of sticking up for Vandy, saying like, oh, they need to kick him out of the SEC. We need to kick him out of the SEC. They're terrible. The Whistler sucks. Go join Tulane in the ACC or something.
it's sad because I really do have a lot of respect for Tim Corbin. I think that he's built a program. I think he's done the things you ask him to do. He's really made his guys better young men. And then this guy comes in and just makes you hate them. Like he single-handedly makes you hate watching Vanderbilt baseball when it wasn't like that before.
In 2014, when Vanderbilt kind of burst on the scene and won the national championship, they were one of those teams in Omaha where all the kids were drawn to them just because they were having fun in between innings. They would do things and they would throw balls into the stands, and they would be this fun kind of unbuttoned team. Now they've kind of grown away from that just as a program. They're kind of the professional program now. They're like the Yankees. But it doesn't help when they have that annoying old man dumped in Crisco going every single second. I don't understand how his lips aren't chapped all the time because he also does the mouth whistle, which
He's got the NIL with CarMax or something.
Well, he travels around in a van, and it has like the anchor on it and like a chain. Like, how can you be somebody as prolific as the Vandy Whistler and not get like attacked when you are advertising yourself in a van like that?
You're right.
That's the most Vandy thing I've ever heard, that he lives in a van.
That might be
He didn't say he lives in a van.
Yeah, the Vandy Whistler.
The road is my apartment.
It's out there. It's horrible. Man, it's awful.
I knew someone was going to say it, so I went and tried to pick another one.
I didn't.
I think that was a given.
I knew that Noah was going to go with the Vandy Whistler, so I was staying away from it.
Well, Jake, we mentioned all these great traditions again without ever mentioning a mid-major, other than Vanderbilt in a few years.
Vanderbilt will be down there. Want to highlight the American East. First off, I want to say Noah and I were both wrong on our picks. I had Maine. I thought that was going to be my lock of the tournament. Maine had looked really good down the stretch, and they kind of disappeared there. Noah had the New Jersey Institute of Technology, so NJIT, both out. We got Binghamton and their gorgeous, gorgeous stadium. I'll have Noah tweet out some pics. This is not a very mid-major type stadium, brand new, against UMass Lowell. And I think they're playing for the entire state of Massachusetts today. Massachusetts has been, 50 out of 50. They're behind even Wyoming, even though Wyoming doesn't play any college baseball. They're the worst college baseball state. UMass Lowell, I think they're going to be I think they're still going to be behind Coppin, but I think they're going to be, out of the 4 seeds, they're going to be 15 out of 16. The other one is we got another split between me and Noah. I went with Southeast Missouri State just because I think it's so much fun to type it out because it's SEMOST. And Noah had his Belmont Bruins out of Nashville. I guess Noah's just such a big Vandy homer that Belmont's so close to Vandy. He was like, oh, man, it's like baby Vandy. They're playing today. That's going to be my other really, really big one I wanted to highlight. And then lastly, I got the Abilene Christian Fighting Wildcats. They got Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon's got to beat them twice. Chad Fox, most famous ACU alumni, 2003 World Series champion. He's going to be rooting hard for those Wildcats. And big on Texas baseball. I think Texas WAC is better than that Western WAC. I don't think that, Grand Canyon played some of the schedules that these Texas teams have, and that's going to be my most exciting thing next year. Is hopefully we can get into some intermingling with the WAC, and it's not just two separate conferences. Because I would have loved to see Grand Canyon play Sam, Lamar, those kind of tiers of teams. But give me Abilene Christian today, and I think they go out and beat New Mexico State as well. But wanted to highlight the Aggies too. They're kind of another one that's often overlooked. Being the little brother in lower state probably isn't easy. Right there with those, right there near the border in New Mexico. I really like the Aggies stick together, but I think it's going to be too much. The Texas tradition is going to be too high for them.
Well, if you see me celebrating like crazy, it's because fellow mid-major East Carolina just took a 6-4 lead. Tulane is kicking it all over the field. Tulane's dead. Tulane is so dead. East Carolina, is this the conference championship? I think it might be.
No, it's the semifinals.
Oh, well, who do they play if they win?
Houston or UCF.
They've already won. East Carolina has already won the conference. Congratulations, East Carolina. I want to see the Pirates in Omaha. I did at the beginning of the year. I'm ecstatic. But Jake, what happened to my Lamar? What happened to them?
They had a couple injuries, and I don't think they ever really gelled as a team. They played Grand Canyon really tough, in the first game, and then they did kind of just seem to disappear. But Lamar is kind of one of those struggling baseball programs, so it really is kind of good to kind of get thrown into the national spotlight down there in Beaumont, big oil refinery town. But I think Lamar is going to be back next year. They had a couple graduating seniors, but I think they laid a very, very good foundation. And the WAC is going to be a very, very tough baseball conference next year. I'll have to, kind of check my notes and stuff like that after to see with all the realignment, because the WAC is always, always, always a victim to the realignment. But Texas WAC, I think, is going to be the strongest mid-major next year. That's going to be my bold prediction.
Jake, have you been following the Summit League at all? Because it's just such a shame that I went to a Summit League university, which is arguably the worst conference in the country that isn't that one that Coppin State is in. I believe Oral Roberts eliminated my UNO Mavericks last night. Not 100% true, though.
I didn't know New Orleans was in the Summit League.
Our mid-major guy's like, oh, what?
I was like, what? That's the real UNO is the one in New Orleans. I do follow the Horizon League. For as terrible as a student life is at Oral Roberts, they are one of my dark horse, kind of good teams that I like to follow. They beat Oklahoma State in a game, and Oklahoma State tried everything in their power to, come back and win it. I do like Oral Roberts. I do like that team that Miami scheduled kind of late down the stretch here. The Bison, as they're like to be called. But I do like that. I like them. I like the Horizon League, the MAAC. That's another really great one. We got I'm gonna butcher this. The Kansas Griffins are playing. They play either Niagara or Ryder. Niagara's a Jesuit school. Ryder, I'm gonna be honest, they do not have a very strong Wikipedia page, so don't really know a lot about them. But really, really excited to see some of these, teams. And Mount St. Mary's was my team there for a while out of that league. But it's really great to kind of see, kind of some new blood in there with both of our picks flailing. We had Marist and Fairfield, both went down kind of early. And I promise fans, I'm not making up these schools. These are real schools that play real Division I baseball.
Just going off of Ryder, I believe Ryder was in the NCAA tournament last year. Not 100% sure. I want to say they played maybe Vanderbilt. Not sure.
I think that sounds right. Yeah. They're like the Ryder. They have some kind of horse as their logo. I know that.
But Jake, you're running the show. Do we have any questions from our lovely fans?
Let me see. We got Dylan again.
I've watched 5 Oregon Duck games. They all ended in a loss. Yeah, I mean, I went down there. I saw 2, 3, 4 in Eugene, and they were 2-2 the one there. They lost the 2 to the Beavers, and I went and saw them play at Oregon State and lose all 3 of those. So, yeah, I've seen them. And then they lost 0-2 in the conference tournament. First ever conference tournament to be eliminated in the Pac-12, so they have that forever.
Oregon is winless all time in the Pac-12 tournament.
They're the only team with a worse conference record than Texas Tech. Texas Tech is 2-7 in Arlington, so I guess Oregon can hold their. Texas Tech can hold their hat on that. Let me see if we have any questions on Twitter. Y'all be sure to follow Noah's real non-burner account. I think he's the only person in history with a burner account of his face.
I know people have been asking me about Grand Canyon. I think that they're going to be a 2 seed somewhere. I know that they're playing Abilene Christian today, and they have to win twice to get into the finals there of the WAC. It's a great Grand Canyon team, but they're not going to be above a 2 seed. They're probably going to be a 3 seed somewhere, 2 or 3 seed. Hopefully not in Corvallis, but I know they've already played there twice. I've already had to see them, crush the ball. It's a very good hitting team, so I don't want.
We did have one question. Where do you see Arkansas falling with how bad that they have played down the stretch?
2 seed. They're going to be a 2 seed. They're going to go to a regional, probably an ACC regional, and have to battle in through that. Maybe even a Big 12. Maybe, like you said, Texas. That'd be kind of a fun one if they send them to Texas. But they're a 2 seed now. They looked lethargic. I'm hearing things that they maybe had a sickness going around that was kind of causing them to not be. But you can see in the
dugout. They had the
dugout.
cancer scare, too. Didn't Dave Van Horde have kind of a cancer scare there for a little bit?
Yeah. They've had a lot of stuff going on. It's not just baseball. There's a lot of things going on. But they definitely did not look ready to play baseball this week. When you looked in that dugout, it did not look like the Arkansas teams that are up and ready to go. They kind of had their heads down. They kind of were just going through the motions. I hope that they turn around and come back here, but they're a 2 seed.
Yeah, heading into the SEC tournament, I thought as long as they win one game, they'll host. I thought that people were overreacting a little bit too much. They went 0-2. I can't say it anymore. They're a 2 seed. I don't know how high of a 2 seed, but like I said, I really think that the committee is going to try and make a storyline with them. Maybe they'll be sent. Maybe they won't line up LSU and Oregon State. They'll line up Arkansas as a 2 seed against Oregon State. Not necessarily in Corvallis, but, across. Maybe even in Corvallis. Wouldn't that be something?
That would be oof.
Yeah,
I would love an OU one. An OU one would be insane, too, because you would have all the people from Northwest Arkansas and then all the A&M rejects that went to Arkansas that live in Dallas, too.
I could
drive a little north.
certainly see that if Oklahoma gets the 16 seed. I could certainly see them sending Arkansas there to be the 2 seed in that bracket.
I would love that. And I would almost still want to pick Arkansas, even though that they're not the host, because they traveled so well. Yeah. I mean, it's insane to me how much Arkansas travels. When I went and saw them in Round Rock, they were probably 70, 80, 90% of the hosts. They sold out of all the merchandise that Arkansas had about Saturday afternoon. So it's insane how much they travel.
I don't know how much you guys have been paying attention to the Pac-12 merchandise. They forgot all the Oregon State stuff. They had teams that were not even in the Pac-12 tournament down there in Scottsdale. They didn't even have any Oregon State gear. So there was no way for people to buy Oregon State Conference champion shirts. Nothing. There was absolutely nothing down there yet. They're trying to get it down there today. It's complete embarrassing. Pac-12, get your shit together.
And they picked the worst minor leagues. I mean, the worst spring training stadium, too, in Arizona. They have a bevy of ones to choose from, and they picked the oldest and worst one.
They're literally surrounded by 9 stadiums.
It's so bad. I like the Camelback one. That's where they should have hosted it. The Camelback Mountain or the Diamondbacks facility is amazing. The Angels one. Yeah, the Ranch. That's an insane one.
There's so many good ones, and it's like, oh no, this is where I play. That field is so hard. There was a ground ball hit last night past the shortstop that was hit so hard on the ground it rolled all the way to the wall between the left fielder and center fielder. That's how hard that field is right now. It's not for college baseball.
And their seats don't face home plate. That is my biggest pet peeve about any college baseball stadium is that their seats face center field. It looks like Fenway Park. It's terrible. Texas, I'm looking at you. That's what I'm calling out. Their seats don't face home field. It seems like such an oversight.
Well, why would you want to watch Ivan Melendez swing the bat where you could just watch where the ball goes?
Yeah, I love watching, the left fielder give me 2 courtesy jogs when I'm at the stadium. It's my favorite thing.
Jake, looks like you're running the show on bets this week. Do you have any keys to make us rich?
I don't. I didn't pull any lines this morning. I was too busy on my softball gambling, if you caught that one on Wednesday. My dad was starting to say I had an addiction, so
had to cut you off. No more bets. No more bets.
No more bets. I can read some of Noah's conference champions so y'all can laugh at them.
All right.
They were pretty funny. Where is
30
it?
for 30, right?
Where'd you send that to me on?
I think it was just sent to the main production chat.
Hold on.
If you just search for like an uncommon team, I'm sure you'll find it right away. Like
Binghamton.
like Lamar. I know I picked Lamar.
Let me see.
I picked Arizona to win the Pac-12.
Oh, here we go. Let me see. You picked Cal Poly to win the Big West, even though they were eliminated. They were statistically eliminated.
They were already eliminated.
You picked Southern Illinois. That was a good one. I think UNLV. Aren't they out too?
Yeah, they're out.
They just got knocked out by Nevada.
You had Central Connecticut State, the Demons.
The only reason I picked them is because they have blocked me on Twitter, and they are always in the tournament, so I can never.
Why'd they block you on Twitter?
Block you on Twitter?
So right when the coronavirus happened, they canceled like their game at Creighton before it was like cool. Like it was like probably 2 hours before everything else canceled. So I was like, oh wow, what a lazy move. They're afraid of Omaha. And they blocked. They were following me prior to that. They were following, and then they blocked.
Oh man.
You had I've not been following the Southwestern Athletic Conference tournament at all, just because Mark, if you want to feel good about how the Pac-12 displays their athletes, the Southwestern Athletic Conference is the single worst one at displaying it. They have a great landing page. I'm sure they paid a lot of money, on Squarespace or somebody to design it, but it was never updated. When I was kind of doing our cheat sheet for the conference and stuff like that, I didn't even know their schedule. They could have had, 30 teams show up, quadruple elimination. They released the schedule, and I've not found any updates out of it. I don't know if that Alabama State one is a good pick or a bad pick, just because I know Grambling and Southern. It could be. I mean, they could be out. They could be in. Who knows? Okay, I do feel like that they're just going to send some team in, and no one's ever going to verify, because I don't think there's any. Like, I see pictures of the tournament, but I don't see any videos of it. Let me see what else you got that was pretty funny. Mercer out of the Southern Conference.
I have a Mercer fan that DMs me probably nightly, giving me Mercer updates. Go Bears.
Xavier in the Big East. That's kind of a hot one.
That's just because UConn is trash. And
Yes, I'm all about that.
Why didn't you pick your boys? Your Creighton Jays.
Nope, the quarter
Your
zip.
Creighton Jays.
No.
No QZs.
No.
All right, who y'all got for big boys? SEC, who do you think comes out of that one?
I had LSU. I picked LSU before the start of the conference tournament. I liked the way that they were playing ball. I thought that they were coming in hot. I thought they were hungrier. Tennessee's just too good, but yeah, I had LSU.
Well, I originally picked Arkansas, so that means I get to pick a new one. I'm picking Tennessee.
I'm going to go Alabama. I think they've been the pleasant surprise of the whole tournament for me.
That's short.
My A&M jinx.
I can't think of his name.
Jarvis? Yeah, Jarvis is good.
He has an old name. Like, I couldn't believe his name was Jim. Jim Jarvis.
Yeah, Jim Jarvis.
He's so good.
And he wears dirty mids, too. He looks super vintage.
I know my ACC pick was wrong. I took Vautech. They didn't even make it to the finals. So they didn't even make it to the semifinals, so that was a bad one for me.
Read it off, Jake. Who did I pick in the ACC?
You had
Notre
North
Dame.
Carolina. You were just
North
grabbing off
Carolina.
the entire show.
And North Carolina is hot right now. I'm a genius. I got all the other picks wrong, but I got that one kind of right.
I had Pitt. That was mine.
What about Big Ten? I took Michigan in the Big Ten.
Noah had Maryland, so another team he was crapping on. Do you just wake up and change your opinion?
I love Maryland. Nobody has more respect for Maryland than I do. Mark doesn't like Maryland.
I hate Maryland. I literally I don't put them.
Okay, hold on. I will say this about Maryland: it could be a lot worse, because you know how Michigan wears their football helmet as their catcher stuff. So just be glad that they're not wearing turtle print jerseys or having their state flag on their batting helmets. Is they could very easily, like if they were an Adidas school or something like that, they would be unwatchable.
Adidas should be banned from all collegiate sports. Am I right, Miami over there?
Are we just taking shots directly at Baylor now?
They treat A&M really good. A&M has very, very classy looks, I think.
Yeah, they do. I just hate it. I just hate when Adidas try and gets flashy because they create such a nice uniform and then they add one little aspect to it that makes the whole thing look like trash.
That's why Maroon, they don't mess up Maroon, because Maroon, he doesn't get flashy. That's why Mississippi State, it's like, oh yeah, like, I don't
There's
see
a good
gray
one.
as a school color. Y'all want gray
Yeah.
helmets?
But like, I can't even think of an example right now. But they're just so gross when they try and get too.
Michigan, remember when they used to always ruin Michigan's uniforms? They would have like the stitching be yellow or something stupid like that. They ruined the Vills too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They have,
I don't like any of Louisville's uniforms, even though a lot of people do.
I
They're
love the
either
black.
amazing-
Black on black with the red, the shiny red I like that look.
Oh, I know what you're thinking of. Those NC State all red leotards that they roll out with the red
And
pants. They look like the
I
Diamond
actually-
Dynasty team.
Yeah, I didn't mind the all red, but it's the piping on those uniforms.
I
down the
hate
sleeve.
the piping. Which
So
on the A&M jersey I have,
unnecessary.
I think it's so weird. And I'll have to see, confirm it with some of the NC State fans, but it's a black jersey, and then it has a black stripe and a white stripe. But you can't see the black stripe unless it's up close, and it looks so bad.
Typical.
Pac-12. Oh, Pac-12. You took Arizona.
Yeah,
Let me
I
see here.
fed into your hot weather teams, and I couldn't pick my Sun Devils. So
Yeah, I thought that the hot weather teams were going to be hot down there. I wanted to take Oregon State, but I actually took Stanford because I thought that they're just playing so good a ball right now. I'm rooting for Oregon State with all my heart, but I did take Stanford as the pick.
That's who
I
I
thought they were
had too.
your
I
pick.
felt like they were the hotter team.
Yeah, and the
if
way
I'm
they've been hitting the ball out of that ballpark is ridiculous.
if I'm gonna repick, I'm probably gonna pick Oregon State, but wouldn't be surprised if Stanford won it all. But was really hoping that my Sun Devils would get hot. They won one game.
They did win a game. They
That's good
did beat Oregon, so you got that to hang your hat on.
I think Oregon beat themselves. I don't think Arizona State beat Oregon.
A little scary yesterday. Daniel or Susak left the game in the fourth inning after he took a foul ball, and he went up to hit a home run, and then they pulled him after his home run because he was kind of trotting weird. Who knows if he's going to play today for Arizona? That would be a big loss for them.
They'll bring him out like Elko. Just have him take some pitches out. I still can't believe Bianca did that last year for him to hit that grand slam. And he had that huge brace.
Anything else, boys? Announcement. Oh, the Monday game. So Monday we're going to be on. What time do we say? 1:00 Central.
Yep, one. Yep.
So 1:00 Central, we're going to join you. So after the bracket is released, we're going to have breakdowns of the bracket. We're going to have some special guests on to help us break down those brackets as well. So it'll be the whole team here, myself, Jake, Noah, AJ, Alex is going to be back, and then we're going to have a couple guest hosts come in and break down some of these, regionals for you. It's going to be really outstanding. Also, look out, CWS. We're going to be sending out our 16 different regions. We're going to be having breakdowns on them on paper as well. So you guys will want to read up on all your teams and figure out what we think your chances are of winning each regional.
We're going to get you from Tennessee to Coppin State. We're going to get you every single person. You're going to know
64
every single team like they're your favorite team. Mississippi State fans, your team's not in. Roll with one of these mid-majors. Noah and I will get you ready.
I
I got
all
goosebumps just thinking about it.
I expect all Mississippi State fans to go out and buy all the Antelope jerseys they can for Grand Canyon University. They're going to be loaded up and ready to go.
Well, I'm just excited for when we pick every NCAA tournament game on the show, and we have Alex
Live reactions.
Yep.
Our producer Alex is going to be. We're going to kill him with the graphics that we're going to have. We're going to be live every single game. Initial reactions. You're going to get Noah's hatefulness for Miami live and in person. This is him watered down. You should see some of the stuff he sends like in our group messages about Miami.
Miami's fraud.
Oh, I can't wait for the bracket release. But yes, come join us Monday. We have no idea how long that show is going to go. It's going to go as long as we feel like talking, which could be 8 hours. Who knows? But we'll be on that whole day, ready to answer questions. Please get ready with us. See the bracket release and then ask us anything. We'll be live the whole day. We're just going to be talking baseball. We got some great fans and great guests that are going to be on joining us. So I can't wait to release that information once we finalize who all is going to be on the show. But it's going to be some really good ones. So
Noah's going to live tweet every single tournament game from the 247 College World Series. We're going to live tweet from the weekend rotation. It's going to be Noah and I are quitting our jobs for the next 2 weeks to just follow college baseball.
I put in my 1 day's notice. I'm done.
I'm gonna play my COVID card. I haven't used it in about a year. I'm like, sorry, I was exposed. Can't come in.
I stopped applying for jobs just so I could do this for the next 2 weeks. So
everything is punching air.
It's all right here. Setting up perfectly.
We'll see y'all Monday.
Monday.
Noah, any closing remarks?
Miami's fraud. Thank you.
Monday, 11 o'clock West Coast time, guys. Best Coast.
See y'all.